Good morning, everybody. I so wish we were sitting together around a big round wooden table drinking coffee out of our favorite mugs. You probably do too. I wish we had the freedom to come and go as we pleased without the fear of either getting or giving somebody a virus. This is certainly not the life I expected to be living right now, and probably you would agree. Just a few months ago, my husband Ron took me on an extravagant overnight to Chicago to celebrate my birthday. We felt like we didn't have a care in the world. Part of my celebration included a morning at the art museum. While it's one of my absolute favorite places to go, I'd never been there with Ron, and it had been many, many years since I'd even been there at all. So, needless to say, I was really excited to meander through the halls, soaking in the beauty as seen through the eyes of so many talented men and women throughout history. But I was especially eager to revisit one little piece of art that took my breath away about 10 years ago. Foolishly, at the time, I didn't write down its title or even the artist that created it, but I'd recreated it in my mind more times than I could count, and it actually influenced how I tried to live my life. So here's what it was. It was tucked away in the newly opened modern wing. Amongst abstracts and vivid colors, I spotted this tiny framed piece containing six black and white photos. Each of them were captioned by just a few words typed out on a manual typewriter. Across the top were three different images of a single lone tree way off in the distance, and the caption under each one of them said how many steps the artist expected to take to reach the tree. For example, he might say 99 for this one, 87 for this one, and 128 for this one. Then, lined up under each of those images were three images of the same tree after the artist was standing right in front of it. Then the labels read actual steps. So they might be 213, 87, and 111. In each case, there was a pretty wide difference between the expected steps and the actual steps. I resonated with that visual because I spent so much of my life planning carefully and then trying to control the outcomes that I thought I should be able to accomplish each and every day. But most nights I fell into bed disappointed with myself or with others because my reality didn't quite match my expectations. Do you get it? The steps I thought it was going to take me to get somewhere were always very different than the actual ones. Well, as Ron and I entered the art museum through that modern wing, I was so excited to stand in front of that image that had shaped my life experience since I had seen it. So I went right to the room where it had been, and it wasn't there. And it wasn't in any of the other rooms that I searched through. My disappointment was mounting. I was actually beginning to feel it in my stomach, but I didn't want to let Ron know how disappointed I was because I didn't want to spoil this wonderful experience he was providing me. So I started asking every curator that I saw where this picture was. No, I don't know the name, and no, I don't know the artist. No, I'm not even quite sure when I last saw it. Oh, you mean you rotate art through the museum? You mean, other museums? You might not even be here anymore? Oh, thanks. It wasn't there anymore. I was actually living out the pictures. My expectations of being able to see this valuable piece of art for my heart wasn't meeting my reality. So I took a few deep breaths and I had to challenge myself to just let it go. So I suggested to Ron, let's go look at the Monet room. I love Monet, and I figured that would be a good place to get my mind off my disappointment. So fairly quickly, I found myself standing in front of Monet's series of haystack pictures. My heart was calming down while I was basking in his subtle use of lighting and noticing the differences between the seasons as he was capturing just the simple beauty of a farmer's harvest. Then I began to study the little placards describing when the art was made and what he was intending to say with it. And I found myself crying, and it took me a moment to realize why. But then I got it. His most famous works were created not only after great personal loss, but after he reached his 60s. You see, I was there celebrating my 60th birthday, the age that many may wonder what future contributions into this world would look like. I had just published my first book, and I have dreams for 3 more, one for each season. Could it be that I had anticipated seeing one thing, but the actual art I needed to see that day was what my heart really needed? I needed the encouragement to keep creating and keep contributing as I stood there in front of this beautiful art that Monet poured his heart into when he was older than me. Expectations versus reality. Another lesson for me to let go of expectations to actually be able to receive the beauty of the present moment right in front of me. Wow. How many of you are relating right now to the discrepancy between what you have expected the last few weeks to look like versus the reality of what it is? If you're like me, it's probably a pretty big gap. Your Easter probably didn't feel like what you thought you would have expected it to feel like when you bought those cute little Easter outfits for your kiddos, or when you scoured some recipes to decide what you wanted to make for your meal, or even how you wanted to decorate your table. Your traditions probably had to change pretty dramatically. You're maybe getting used to having children home from school or college, or not being able to see parents and siblings in the way that you're so accustomed to. Maybe your financial situation changed on a dime, and now everything feels a little bit off balance in the most frightening of ways. Expectations versus realities. Opportunities for embracing joy and contentment and true life. It happens when we can let go of the expectations and notice Jesus in the reality. If I hadn't let go of my expectations of seeing one piece of art, I would have missed a powerful moment in front of Monet. And I think when we notice Jesus in the reality of our present moments, they're probably the most holy of moments. And how are you doing in that? Actually, how am I doing in that? I say this for me as well. It's most likely a daily and probably sometimes an hourly choice. That's true for me. But when I feel the beauty of the art in front of me right now, just like Monet's haystacks or water lilies, I can be a little more joyful and realize that Jesus is right beside me. I had a moment watching my neighbor a couple of days ago, this older couple whose children and grandchildren are in and out of their house all the time. And it's just so stark to me to see how quiet their driveway is. But I noticed Saturday a social distancing gathering where they were wishing each other a happy Easter, and my neighbor just kept wiping her eyes with tears because she was noticing the beauty of that moment. Something we would never ask for or expect, but Jesus was in that moment. He's beside you right now as you frantically search for whatever it is that you're expecting, but he's also beside you as you bask and find ways to soak in the reality that you're feeling. May you feel your presence in profound ways today. I would love to hear about some of your surprise moments. What if, after you watch this and you start paying attention to those places where your reality is soaked in a little more deeply, just put a quick note on Facebook page. Let's encourage one another, and let's see where we can see Jesus, even when our reality is not what we expected. And I hope you can make it a great day. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon.